All right, now what we're going to do is take you to the Aero India show that is happening, and all the attention will be on the Army Chief. In fact, the Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat, is going to be flying the indigenous LCA Tejas Combat aircraft, and there he is getting into the aircraft. It is a very important moment. The Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat, flying in the LCA Tejas Combat aircraft at the Aero India show today. And yesterday, in fact, the major attraction was of course, the Air Force's missing man formation that honored the pilot who was tragically killed in a crash, in a Surya Kiran crash that took place just a day before the Aero India show, but also the Rafale jets. It was the Rafale jets and the Tejas that impressed one and all with their amazing, brilliant, scintillating maneuvers, dazzling everyone during the Aero India show going on in Bengaluru. But today all eyes are on the Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat. He's flying in the indigenous LCA Tejas Combat aircraft, wearing the G-suit, wearing his overalls, playing the role of a pilot today. He is there inside the LCA Tejas Combat. His scheduled sortie comes just a day after the regulator for military aviation had given the final clearance. It's the FOC, it's called the final operation clearance to the Chief of Army to fly the indigenous LCA Tejas. And in just moments from now, he's going to take off. That's the Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat, flying the LCA Tejas Combat aircraft at the Aero India show. And this after the regulator for military aviation gave a thumbs up, gave a final go-ahead or final operation clearance, as they say, to the homegrown fighter, clearing way for the induction into the Indian Air Force as well. Well, the Aero India show has been in the news for its spectacular display of aircrafts. We saw how the Rafale yesterday grabbed all the attention, displaying their air prowess with the scintillating maneuvers. It was absolutely fascinating to see the Rafales that recently, in fact, is going to be inducted into the Indian Air Force. It's the 12th edition of the Aero India Air Show that took off on Wednesday with a very spectacular, dazzling flying display of military and civilian aircrafts of the Indian Air Force. All of this is happening at the Yelahanka Air Base. So what you're seeing right now is, for the benefit of our viewers who have just tuned in, these are the visuals of the LCA Tejas Combat aircraft. And who's in there? Well, there is the Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat, who's going to be flying the LCA Tejas aircraft at the Aero India show. I'm just trying to establish contact with my colleague who's present on location and is witness to these visuals coming in from the Aero India show that has been going on. It just recently kicked off in Bengaluru on Wednesday, following the very tragic and unfortunate incident of that mid-air collision of the two Surya Kirans. Nagarjun Dwarkanath, my colleague, is with us. Nagarjun, so the Army Chief today playing the role of a pilot, wearing the G-suit, his overalls, General Bipin Rawat inside the indigenous Tejas Combat aircraft. What's going on now? Nagarjun, can you hear me? Okay, we'll try and establish contact in just a bit, but this is what you're seeing right now. In fact, it was only after the Center for Military Airworthiness and Certification handed over that FOC certificate, which is final operation clearance, to the Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanua, that we have the Army Chief who's sitting inside the LCA Tejas Combat aircraft. He's just about to take off. Obviously, he's going to be assisted by another pilot, both the pilots sitting inside, the pilot and the Army Chief sitting inside the LCA Tejas Combat aircraft. And as I was saying, the last few days has been extremely fascinating just to see the amazing flying display of the aircrafts. In fact, the multi-role medium combat aircraft Rafale of the French Dassault Aviation has really been hogging all the attention and limelight, in fact, emerging as the clear winner. France also superseding the US. Shivarur, consulting editor who's been covering the Aero India show, is also now joining us for more. Shiv, the Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat, after getting the final operation clearance, now in the Tejas Combat aircraft. Tell us what's happening. Just take us through these visuals, please.
Avantika, yes, that's right. General Bipin Rawat has tapped into an LCA Tejas fighter, a fully indigenous homegrown fighter aircraft just hours after it was cleared for final operations. This is the baseline aircraft that received its final operational certificate, Avantika, after many, many years in development. The Indian Air Force is going to be operating about 40 of these aircraft and larger numbers of an improved version of this very same aircraft. So today's flight with the Army Chief is really a show of confidence in an aircraft that has had troubles in the past, but has turned the corner and is now, seeing squadron service with the Indian Air Force, Avantika. So in many ways, the pictures you see exude the confidence of the scientific team that has developed and tested this aircraft against many, many technological odds over the last many years, and has finally got something to show for it, which is a sturdy little fighter aircraft that the Indian Air Force will be operating, about 40 of them initially, and like I said, hundreds perhaps of an improved version in the years ahead. In fact, the Indian Army Chief also flew the light combat helicopter, Avantika, which is an AKL product, a short while ago this morning, and now he's tapping into the LCA, which makes this a day full of flying for the Army Chief. I mean, he's the general of the land forces, but he's spending a lot of time in the air today.
Oh, absolutely. Shiv, about the aircraft that he's flying, if you could just tell us a little bit about the Tejas that we're seeing on our screens right now. I remember it had participated in the Vayu Shakti exercise in Rajasthan's Pokhran, and I faintly recall how it performed the air-to-air refueling, which I personally thought was very fascinating. But tell us a little bit more about its skills, its operational and strategic importance.
It's a highly capable aircraft for its class and size, Avantika. It's an aircraft that can conduct both air-to-ground and air-to-air missions. It can conduct, all sorts of air defense duties. The Tejas, the LCA Tejas that you see on your screen, the aircraft that General Bipin Rawat is about to fly, is an aircraft that was developed specifically to replace the MiG-21. And it's because the LCA Tejas was, had a lot of delays in its development, which are not uncommon in aircraft development. That's the reason why the MiG-21s continue to be in service at this point of time. But now with the LCAs entering service, hopefully the Indian Air Force gets some breathing space and will be able to accelerate the retirement of its MiG-21s, which are very, very old. But one of the good things about the LCA is, it's one of the first times in a long time that India will be operating its own fighter aircraft, not importing aircraft and spending a huge amount of money. These are built by Indian engineers and aviation scientists. They can be maintained right here on the ground.
Right.
There will never be the nightmare of spare parts, etc. So the Indian Air Force is really looking forward to it. In fact, we asked the Indian Air Force Chief yesterday, after receiving the final operational certificate, about his confidence in the jet. And he said exactly what you said, Avantika, that Vayu Shakti proved that this aircraft is fully capable of delivering on the mission.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful visuals there. And Shiv, always a pleasure, to speak to you and understand really the gravity and the importance of what we are seeing. Lieutenant General Raj Kadian is also joining me on the broadcast. Sir, good afternoon. Thank you so much for speaking to us. It's very rare to see the Army Chief inside an aircraft. The Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat, exuding confidence, just wearing that G-suit, his overalls, playing the role of a pilot today, and he's inside the Indigenous LCA Tejas Combat. How do you feel today?
No, very happy. This shows the jointness in the three services. After all, national security is not the prerogative of anyone's service. So I'm happy. See, this Indian Air Show is a very, very important event. It has become very important.
Yes.
Most of the world manufacturing companies, particularly of the Air Force equipment, since it is Air Show. But the ground systems also are displayed in these exhibitions. I've had experience of Paris Air Show. A lot of ground equipment and weapons which could be useful to our army were available there.
Absolutely.
I'm sure the Army Chief, his main focus will be on the equipment that could be of use to the army.
Right.
But I'm happy sitting in the aircraft and also giving his views.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for speaking to us. Shiv, why has the Tejas been struggling, in the last few years, and why is its induction so important for the Indian Air Force?
Avantika, a variety of reasons why it has taken a long time. First of all, the very nature of aircraft and aviation development is a hugely complicated exercise that is beset with pitfalls and problems. From sanctions from other countries where we're getting technology, which happened in 1998 after the nuclear test, to foundational research of many of the things that go into aircraft development are things that we've had to build from scratch. So remember that R&D is never a waste. It's always very valuable in what we will develop after the Tejas as well. But even having said that, the LCA itself is an aircraft that will fulfill a certain mission. There will be a lower end of the mission spectrum, where high performance capabilities are not really required, Avantika. Those will be performed, by the Sukhois and the Rafales, etc.
Okay.
But at the lower end of the spectrum, the LCA Tejas that the Army Chief is currently flying, will very neatly fit into the role that was performed by the MiG-21. It's like I said, it's going to be constantly. The important thing is the aircraft has entered squadron service. There are only a handful, but there will be at least 30 to 40 more that will enter service in the next few years. And those are going to be fully weaponized and capable of operations across the spectrum. So
Yes.
This is an aircraft that is ready for the mission, like I said. So exuding confidence. These pictures really just highlight the fact that the Tejas is here and it's ready.
Wonderful. And Shiv, these visuals that I'm seeing right now takes me back to last year when the Chief of the Staff of the French Air Force, General Andre Lanata, also flew the sortie of the Indian Air Force's light combat aircraft Tejas. And just like the Chief of the Staff of the French Air Force, you have today the Army Chief, General Bipin Rawat, also sitting at the rear end, at the rear seat of the twin-seater trainer aircraft. What exactly is going to be his role when the aircraft takes off?
I can tell you, since I've flown quite a few fighters, Avantika, I can tell you that even though General Bipin Rawat is not a pilot, when the aircraft attains a certain amount of altitude, they will be flying at about, I understand, about between 8 to 14,000 feet. And the general will be given a full briefing in the air about the aircraft's capabilities, its maneuverability, the systems on board, the targeting systems, all of that. There may even be some, fun simulated attacks that the general will be able to perform. But most interestingly, and this happened with me as well, at some point in the air, the general will be given the stick, Avantika. He will be given full control of the aircraft. The pilot, of course, will oversee all of this from the front cockpit. And he'll be allowed to, move the aircraft around a little bit, do some barrel rolls, maybe pull a loop, pull some G's. He, of course, is wearing a G suit. So
Yes.
you wonder how he's going to take it. But he's a strong soldier, so I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine. He's definitely going to have some fun in the air. We've been told by pilots who fly the Tejas that it's an extremely agile aircraft.
Yes.
And it responds to control input very, very quickly. So it's a fun little aircraft to fly. So I'm sure for about 40 minutes that the Army Chief will be in the air, he's going to have the ride of his life.
Oh, absolutely. Shiv, when was the first squadron of the Tejas inducted into the Indian Air Force?
The first squadron of the Tejas began inductions around 2016, Avantika.
Okay.
And there are about 9 aircraft, if I'm not mistaken, 8 to 9 aircraft that are currently with what is called the Flying Daggers Squadron, which is based near Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu at an airbase called Sulur. So that's where the first LCA Tejas Squadron is currently based. They are going to receive, it's a total order of 40 such aircraft. So
Okay.
that's 2 squadrons of Tejases will be there across 2 squadrons based in Sulur and elsewhere.
Okay.
Beyond that, there is an improved version of the LCA for which an order is imminent in the next 2 to 3 months of about 83 aircraft. And then there is the LCA Mark II, which is a highly improved version of the LCA, which has actually been renamed medium weight fighter, for which the Indian Air Force has actually expressed an interest in buying up to 200 or more aircraft. So overall, you will have well over 350 aircraft from the baseline LCA Tejas, which is a very, very healthy result of an indigenous aircraft development.
Is it why it's such a huge hit with all visiting air chiefs as well, Shiv? I mean, we've seen in the past as well, there have been several sorties that have been conducted on a Tejas with visiting dignitaries who come from other countries as well.
You're totally right, Avantika. In fact, we just spoke to the HAL chairman a short while ago, and remember, HAL is the company that's manufacturing the
Yes.
LCA Tejas. And he was telling us that there has been a lot of interest from countries in Southeast Asia and North Africa in the LCA Tejas. It's actually the improved version of the LCA Tejas called the Mark 1A, which might be a successful export product. It is being looked at as a low cost, low maintenance, low fuss fighter to many countries in North Africa and Southeast Asia.
All right.
Who simply do not have the financial might to buy expensive fighters.
All right.
The LCA definitely going to be a success.
Shiv, very, very briefly, I'm completely running out of time, but how long does this sortie last?
This sortie is going to last about 45 minutes. It might be a little less, but generally 45 minutes is
Right.
how long the general will be in the air.
All right, Shiv, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.